Hello, everyone. This is Amanda Campati, and this is my trauma intervention presentation for CN 649 Foundations of Crisis and Trauma Counseling. So today I'll be introducing you to an emotion regulation exercise. Before I get to that exercise, I'd like to just give some framework for understanding it. And so as we've been learning this semester a lot about trauma, we know that emotions and engaging those are a really important process in our work with clients and even within ourselves, and that trauma memories and trauma work inevitably bring up distressing emotions, and that an important part of working through those is learning how to regulate them with clients and teaching our clients how to do that themselves. And a quote that I've appreciated as I've been diving into this topic is, "A purely disembodied human emotion is a non-entity." And so, in essence, what is being said there is that our bodies, our physical states are not at all disconnected from our emotions and our emotional states. We tend to separate those things, and the reality is that they're intricately connected. And so an important way that we can engage our emotions and that our clients can engage their emotions is to attend to our bodies and listen to what they're saying to us as we are attending to our emotions. And so there's a theory that I would like to talk briefly with you about that is connected to the exercise that I'll be introducing you to, and that theory is called polyvagal theory. And it upholds this belief that our physical bodies and our emotions are intricately connected, and they base this idea primarily off of a nerve in our bodies called the vagus nerve that runs from our heads all the way down through our spine and is connected to other nerves and other body systems. And it is largely responsible for regulating our nervous system, and connected to that is our physical responses and our emotions. And so it provides a really helpful framework, I think, for understanding what is going on in our bodies when we are triggered or when we're in a connected state, and how to navigate this sort of neurological map that we've been given to help us most effectively process and heal from trauma. And so there is something the polyvagal theory calls the autonomic hierarchy. And there are three different levels or three different states that we can be in, that our nervous system can be in at any given time. And so the base level is what they call dorsal vagal. And this is when we are hypo-aroused in the fight, flight, or freeze states. This one is freeze. It's where we are immobilized. We can feel paralyzed, numb, depressed, dissociated, hopeless. And typically what is happening in our bodies in this state is that our heart rate decreases, our blood pressure decreases, our temperature decreases, our facial expressions and affect can look really muted and dull. And this is a state where we are disconnected. We're not able to connect to the people around us, or maybe even feel connected to ourselves. And so it's what the polyvagal theory would call a disconnected state. The same is also true for the next state, which is based on our sympathetic nervous system, and this is fight or flight. So this is hyper-aroused as opposed to hypo-aroused. It's a much more activated state where we can experience really intense emotions such as rage, fear, panic, frustration, or irritation. So in this state, we are more amped up, and so all of our physical responses tends to be an increase in blood pressure, increase in heart rate, increase in our adrenaline and defense responses. So this is also a state where we have a very hard time being connected to the people around us as well. We're responding to danger. And then the next state, which is the ideal one that we all want to be in at all times because it's wonderful, is ventral vagal. And this is a state that we are in when we feel safe and connected. And so this is, in this state, we tend to feel calm and grounded. Our attitude tends to be one of curiosity and openness, and we're compassionate and more in the present moment. And what is fascinating, when we are in ventral vagal, there is literal healing responses that are happening within the body. And so this is all very important when it comes to working with individuals who are working through trauma, because in the ventral vagal state is where we are most able to effectively process and heal from trauma. And so when we are working with individuals and clients who are becoming easily dysregulated, helping them to return to a state of ventral vagal is so important in order to effectively engage their trauma and actually process through it and become more resilient. And the polyvagal theory essentially defines resiliency as the ability to return to a ventral vagal state after being dysregulated. And so an important part of our work as therapists is to know which state our clients are in, to recognize that, to help bring them into ventral vagal. And for our clients to also be learning to understand what state they are in and to recognize that, and for them to become more equipped in returning to ventral vagal themselves. And something this theory points out is that very rarely is someone able to do this without being connected to another person who is grounded themselves. This is like attunement at its core. And so we've all been learning that and know that as future therapists. And so I say that because it's important for us to learn how to be in a ventral vagal state ourselves so that we can embody that and bring that into our work with clients to help them as they are dysregulated and learning to become more regulated. And so I wanted to introduce you to an exercise called Savoring Snapshots, which is an exercise in emotional regulation that is taken from this book here that you see on the screen called Polyvagal Exercises for Safety and Connection. I highly recommend this book to you. I've not entirely read it, but it's been fascinating to me. So if anything on the previous slides has intrigued you, check it out. It's got 50 client-centered practices within it. And so Savoring Snapshots was one that I was most drawn to as I've gone through it so far. And this essentially is a way to help clients recognize when they are experiencing a ventral vagal state and to remain in it. And the whole point of this is really to strengthen that vagus nerve that we talked about and help them to be able to live more of life out of a ventral vagal state over time and to be able to return to that over time. It's like strengthening a muscle. So the more they can practice doing this, the easier they will naturally be able to do it when they become dysregulated. And so this is something you could do at the start of the session if you want to. If a client's coming in and they're kind of disheveled about their day or distressed, you could do this to ground yourself with them. You could also do it throughout a session where they might become dysregulated as you're engaging trauma memories. You could also choose to end your session with it as a way to help them leave your session safely and regulated at the end of your work. And so this is really simple. All I would do is encourage my client to recall a moment that they felt safe and connected to themselves, to other people, to God if they're a person of faith, or even to nature. And I would invite them to close their eyes with me and go back into that moment, go back into that memory, and simply enjoy it. Savor it for 20 to 30 seconds. And I would be keeping track of that time for them. And I'd invite them to just notice what they're feeling in their physical bodies and what they're feeling emotionally, and to just remain in that. And then after those 20 to 30 seconds have gone by, I would invite them to open their eyes and come back to the room present with me. And this is not a necessary next step, but you could invite them to share what that moment was, what the memory was they chose to go back to, where they were at perhaps, and who they were with, what they felt, they noticed. And this can serve as an anchor point for you both to return to in moments where they might become distressed in session or in future sessions. And then you can also assign this in homework as homework. In fact, this book recommends doing that to help expedite the process of strengthening the vagus nerve and to help clients be able to build resiliency over time more quickly. And so you could encourage them to do this starting off just once a day, noticing a moment where they're in ventral vagal, feeling safe and connected, and savor it for 20 to 30 seconds. If it is really hard for them to experience ventral vagal with where they're at in life, then you can encourage them to recall a memory when they have been in that state. And honestly, for some people, it might just be that they're experiencing it with you. And so that might be something for them to return to outside of session. That might be the memory, is time spent with their therapist. And so encourage them to do that once a day, 20 to 30 seconds, if that is tolerable to them. If they can't do it that long, you could shorten it to even 5 to 15 seconds. And as they are able to engage that, the idea is to keep building upon it. And so encourage them to do that more frequently throughout the day. And they could even go as far as creating and keeping a joy journal where they write down what these moments have been for them throughout the week, and maybe at the end of a week, savoring all of them at once, calling a family member or a friend to share with them what they've been enjoying, what they've been savoring lately. Even getting together a group of friends, if there's someone who's social and likes to experience things in community with others, getting together a group of friends who'd be willing to do this with them throughout the week and share those things with one another. For people who might be more creative, you could encourage them to keep a scrapbook or create art that's capturing their moments for them to continue to savor them and enjoy them and document them. So the questions that I have for discussion are, what are other ways you could integrate this concept of savoring snapshots into your work with clients, maybe outside of the script that I gave there? What are other ways you could do that? What kind of clients do you see benefiting most from this? And are there any that you can think of where this practice maybe won't serve them well, or something else would need to be used in place of this one? So if you have thoughts or feedback on any of this, I would be interested in hearing what you have to say. Thank you for taking time to tune into this presentation. Here are some of my references for this. Thank you.